The following review is not meant to be guided into the game. The footage, art, music, and sounds used are credited down below. The review is heavily opinionated, but constructive criticism is accepted below. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are owned by Konami. While I wish to say support the official release, I know how half the fanbase feels about Konami. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an annoying game that helps stroke my ego when I get a good game and my opponent breaks. It hates everyone and is an obvious pay trap to keep you in. Now, the people who like to combo and the toxic people who love to dunk on others have left their comments or left, don't care which. Let's get to the review. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is the second newest card simulator made by Konami that doesn't really capture the old school feeling of being a duelist in the anime, and instead captures the cruel reality of dueling everyone in real life, which is more terrifying if you think about it. Instead of dueling the likes of 𝓮𝓼𝓲𝓵 and Brewer, everyone you ever duel in Master Duel could potentially be their own protagonist or antagonist. By the time this video comes out, the Duelist Cup would be rolling and a new selection pack would have been added in, which will introduce the first wave cards from Battle of Chaos. Before I continue talking about this game, I should talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself. Yu-Gi-Oh! Originally started as a manga published in Shueisha's Shonen Jump as the written and illustrated work of Kazuki Takahashi, the title standing for King of Games or Game King depending on how it's translated. Yu-Gi-Oh! Originally was a collection of games in which the protagonist Yugi Moto and his alter ego Yami participate in various games during the first set of books from chess, to Money and Knife, to D&D, and a literal life or death game based on a riddle. The main game we are about to focus on for both this part and the eventual game is Yu-Gi-Oh!, also known in the manga as Magic and Wizards, and also eventually known as Duel Monsters in translations, to avoid copyright with Magic the Gathering, I would assume. The game only grew in popularity since young teens were catching interest in the card game along with children. Concerning, since the manga was originally made to be pretty dark and horror themed with the main character as messed up as the people they punished. Eventually the game came to real life and slowly became the main focus of the manga as it grew, and long story short, we have what is known today as modern Yu-Gi-Oh! With a ban list, a toxic community, and strangely some hidden circles of wholesome people who welcome newcomers, would I recommend this real life game to others? Not unless you're willing to pay a pretty penny for your deck. Everyone's dueling skills in this game can always be determined into what deck they build and what archetype they run. Personally, I use Magical Musketeers, who are the many types of control decks. Oh, did I say control? Yes, in Yu-Gi-Oh! There are certain deck types that determines your playstyle that can be separated into 4 different types of categories. These are Beatdown, Combo, Control, and Gimmick. Yes, I separate Combo and Gimmick because certain deck and archetypes have their own flavor of how to play. With Beatdown, the attack type of the monster certainly matters to hit over any monster that while remaining unbeatable, with certain traps or spells to prevent the opponent from using their monster's effects. One of the most notable is Eldritch Skill Drain. Combo makes the whole meme of waiting for turn 1 to end, as these people like to go first in order to play Solitaire. Combo normally sets up for an OTK or an end board of negates to ensure victory while playing through most forms of interruption. Control is very slow, almost agonizingly slow, as they specialize in interrupting the opponent on their turn. The most notable control is both 𝓓𝓪𝓷𝓮'𝓼 Pure and Eldritch Skill Drain. Yes, Eldritch is both Beatdown and Control, since their main deck monster is a 2,500 beater that grows to a 3,500 beater if they get destroyed.
Well,
Ow. Damn, zombie drip is harder than steel. So, that leaves gimmick decks. These are known as your stereotyped OTK decks, as they intend to win in one turn, so they're like combo decks, but more egregious in how much they play, and unless you have some form of interruption, you are bound to lose the game. A gimmick deck that is well known is the Librarian Exodia.
Omae wa mou shindeiru. Nani?
Now, you might be wondering, how does one win a game of Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, there are two primary ways to win this game, and that is reducing your opponent's life points down to 0, or destroying their entire deck. However, as it stands, each archetype has their own way of achieving victory, whether it's through beatdown, comboing, or deck destruction. There are other ways, but that's primarily reserved for the gimmicks, as you saw with Exodia. So let's list off the deck types you're bound to run into in Master Duel, and with how the game is set up, there is only a single round duel, so no best of threes, and that bugs a lot of people, especially since the Duelist Cup is going to be going on currently. The game runs rather nicely, but can drag since the game prompts every single hand shot that can be played during the turn. The visuals aren't too spectacular, since only certain cards get summon animations, which resembles live 2D animations of a portrait moving. On some it looks good, on others it's questionable as to why they get animations. As for the story, it's actually interesting that while there's no main anime-style story mode in which you control an avatar, instead you were given a storybook-style game to play in solo mode, in which you experience the lore and history of a card archetype, with World Chalice being one of the longest stories they have on there. My personal favorite story out of the game, though, is the Six Samurais, because of how much inner war and strife there is for them. Plus, I used to main them when I was but a fledgling hunter. Of the game, there are currently 3 card types. Primarily, these are monster, spells, and traps. For monsters, there are various different types of summoning. We'll go through them as accordingly. We have normal summon, which is just summoning the monster in attack position or setting it face down in defense position. Some decks specialize in multiple normal summons, but we won't get into that here. There are various types of special summoning. These are normal special summons, which allow you to special summon the monster in face-up attack or face-up defense. There's fusion summoning, which allows you to utilize a spell or a trap in order to combine 2 monsters to create a fusion monster from the extra deck. Virtual summoning is one of those weird type of summons that you barely see unless you run into an archetype that actually specializes in it, like the Blacklist or Soldier line. These require a specific ritual spell of the corresponding summon in order to tribute monsters to create the thing. You are literally committing a blood sacrifice to ritual summon a monster. Think about that next time. Synchro summoning requires you to use math. I know this is hard, but work with me here. You need to require a tuner monster and a regular non-tuner monster in order to create a synchro monster from your extra deck. You can special summon it in face-up attack or face-up defense. XC summoning. This requires you to, bear with me, overlay 2 matching level monsters across one another in order to create a XC's monster from the extra deck. This can be special summoned in face-up attack or face-up defense. Pendulum summons is even more confusing for people, as you have 2 monsters with 2 text boxes. These count themselves as a monster and a continuous spell and trap that acts as pendulums. While those are face-up on the field, the pendulum on each side works accordingly to what you can summon in between using their power, such as a pendulum summon of 1 and a pendulum summon of 8. You can only pendulum summon between levels 2 to 7 from your hand or extra deck. Then the newest summon, Link Summoning. This requires you to just only use monsters on the field, linking them off in order to create link monsters from the extra deck. These have no defense points and can only be summoned in face-up attack position. Please be careful though, as this does open up a lot of combinations. Out of the spells and traps, we have our normal spell, our normal traps, our quick play spells, our field spells, our continuous traps, continuous spells, and counter traps. Of the spell category, normal, quick play, field, and continuous, these work in the following ways. Normal, unless you have a specific ability, you can only activate these on your turn. Same with continuous spell cards. Quick play, on the other hand, you can activate on your turn or the opponent's turn if you have it set face down. One of the most famous quick play spell cards is called Buy. Field spells are something that you can only activate on your turn that change the field of how it's supposed to work. Normally these have a, when activated, use this ability, or have a lingering effect which boosts the monster's attack points. Of the trap cards, these cannot be activated on your turn and must all be set. Normal trap cards have a regular effect that fades once it's used. Continuous trap cards, along with continuous spell cards, can only be used while it's faced up. The difference between continuous spells and continuous traps is a continuous trap can use its effect on your opponent's turn, whereas a continuous spell must only be used on your turn. Counter traps are your literal reverse Uno trap cards, excuse me. These are known for the most famous for the Solemn series, as they help negate plays and protect your monsters from outright dying. But considering it all, it is time to rate this game as to whether or not you should play it at all. In terms of playability, the solo mode welcomes new beginners in how to train them in how to summon each version of the summoning mechanics, and how some archetypes work. Ranked and casual, however, you can feel the cutthroat nature of people who want to win, and it's really hard to keep a good mood during the game. Especially when you get 7 losses in a row trying to complete dailies. But when you win, oh lord. That feeling when you break down a first turn great board state, that feeling of elation is amazing. It's annoying when you brick in game, especially when you get more bricks than a working hand or don't draw the out as the community points out. This game, when fully experienced by my end from start to current time, would be rated at least 7 levels out of 12. It's good to enjoy as a done game of cards that would be easier done with the right ban list. However, the ban list as it currently is does not fit the memo of the best of one game, as there are so many egregious cards that allow for toxic plays and not enough hand traps to really stop an unwinnable game state. What's worse is the format is about to hit with the base format, and that will make the game a bit of a harder game to enjoy and will reduce the score from 7 to 5. It's certainly pay to win if you get lucky with your card packs, but it's annoying to get the dust needed to get the right cards you need. I wouldn't recommend playing it without knowing what you're getting into. I may not be suggesting the game to others, but I wouldn't stop others from trying it to enjoy their nostalgia, especially with the fact Story of Archetypes are getting put out to show more potential for future cards. This is something I enjoy despite my anger, and if anyone does join, I can't wait to duel with my magical muskets. This has been 𝓮𝓼𝓷𝓮'𝓼 𝓛𝓲𝓷𝓵𝓊, signing off. Be safe out there.